is hopefully useful to everyone in this room, or if you find one thing that you can apply, great. You know, the mission of what we've been trying to do with the Pros Coach Club is try to elevate the overall performance of throwing in the state just by giving more opportunities to kids to develop with facilities and coaching. I think this is our 5th year, 6th year, something like that. And where we come in stages, as well as where athletes have come, is nothing short of pretty good over the last, since 2013, 2012. The other disclaimer here is I'm coaching today to a right-handed thrower. So I've tried to do both by trying to normalizing positions, right-handed thrower. So we're just going to keep that simple. So the question is, what is tension in the glide? I think most people will refer to it as torsion or torque. I used to use the word tension because kids usually grab on words a little bit better. If I say create tension on the shot, that's easier than say you got to create torque, because kids will say, well, I don't know what torque. So there's a textbook definition here. Essentially, it's going to be dumbed down to this. It's elastic energy. I think of a throw, whether it's a javelin, a disc, a shot, or even a hammer, as an energy system. And so I take the science route. So the science is force times distance divided by time is your power. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm devising a technique for an athlete. So if this athlete is tall, they have distance, they have height. So we all know angle of release, height of release, velocity of release is what correlates to distance. So looking at tension, we got to create that elastic energy, create more stored energy. You have, the glide is a simple mechanism, so to speak. Rotational, you have more things going on. More rotational forces, more linear forces. The glide is, for the most part, a linear element. So the tension is an elastic storage that you're creating by putting tension between the shoulders and the hips. And if you can create that, and that's through the positioning of the shot during the glide, you can actually create compound forces to apply against the implement. So that's our goal. Our goal is to accelerate that ball and use your body as the gun versus trying to move the shot like most kids just want to arm it and hit it like that, versus use your hips, because you all know lower body, upper body. It's pretty straightforward. But how do I do that? And that's the question. It's easy for me to say, do this. So what I want to teach today is how we do this. So some terminology, I would say force path or ball path. That's the path of the shot. So we have to work our body through that force path. We have to create steady acceleration. So it's not like a lot of kids think you're just going to go slow, go hard, fast. That's really not the truth. In the discus, in the shot, in the hammer, you're steadily accelerating the implement, and then you're going to stop it really quick. So the energy system is you're creating energy, you're building energy, you're building energy, you're building energy, and then you hit block, and then energy is transferred into the implement release. That's the idea. The reality is that our energy systems are full of holes, and that's the inefficiencies of the techniques that we use. So the goal for my athletes is how efficient can you be to the throw. I say you start with a world record, and every screw up you do, you go down to where you'll land at. So try to make them efficient. And so the efficiency today is all about creating that tension and maintaining it as you release it into the impact area. I structure my training, and we're just talking about drills. We're not talking about periodization or anything where they are at that time of the year, but into these key areas. Power positions, we want them to understand the position. Then we do front circle work. We do transitional movement, which is from the front to the back. We do glide mechanics, and then we'll do full glide throws. And we break the full glide throws, and there's rhyme and reason to it, into what we call blended efforts. So if we're working on a left leg, we're working on coming out of the back, our blended effort is going to reflect the goals for that athlete. And we won't throw one throw at a time. We'll throw 2 or 3 throws in a set. So just sidebar there, the reason why we do that is we can triple our throws per session per athlete if we're throwing 3 times. And their benefit is that rather than going out there, wait, with a lot of kids that sit around in class, they do whatever they're not supposed to do. By doing 3 in a row, I get 3 quality mental efforts on top of the effort. But then we'll also combine that with other things. So different drills working on different things, and then we'll be dropping weight, going up in weight on the implement size. And that's giving them a harder learning curve, and then they have to concentrate harder, plus they're getting a CNS benefit out of it as well. So the position, I'll generally call it the position because that's kind of the foundation of this tension idea. It's very simple. As body orientation is the hips are at 90 degrees. So if the toe board is at 0, hips are at 90, shoulders are going to go at 180. So it's very simple. Like that, right? You throw that way, here's your power position. The left foot and the left heel. So one of the biggest positional errors I see is if you're like this and you're leading with that left heel, your hips are facing closer to 180. So as soon as you drop that heel, so it's always behind the toe, the hips automatically open to 90. So if I'm eyeballing a kid, I just want to say, hey, is he open? I'd like where his toe is in relation to his heel. If the heel is ever ahead of the toe, I'm closed on the hip. And then the super simple cue is heel to heel. Put your heels facing each other like that, your hips will always be open. Now, depending on the flexibility for the kid, you may have some trouble getting the shoulder back to 180, but the beauty of it is you have athletes who have different flexibility levels, different strength levels, different ability to move at the waist. That doesn't mean that they can't get tension, it just means that their tension looks different than athletes who are more flexible. If that makes sense. And then the big part is center of mass of the shot compared to the center of mass of the athlete. So you see this, the center of the mass of the shot needs to be behind, or at the very least on top of the center of mass, but generally behind. So for example, if I'm looking at video of a thrower in a meet like last night, I'll tell you right now if it's going to be a good throw just by where they are right here. So if they're right here, that's going to be a good throw. But if they're right here, you're going to bip it. It's going to go in the dirt. Worse. Over. So body, like we said, some of the cues, hips at 90, so drop the left heel, point the left toe, heel to heel. Another cue that works for a lot of my multis, keep a shot over the right heel, or I heard people say keep it over your back pocket, keep it back here. And that will help them turn and throw a little bit better while keeping it back. Ideally, the shot would be over your calf. I'd be happy to go over your knee for a lot of the young kids that I work with. But I know if it's inside the knee, you're done. Shot. The other part of creating the tension, I may be 90, 180, and the shot can still be out of position. So to get the hip forward, use a hammer cue, push the right hip into the right knee, like that. Or drop the right knee, however it's going to work for the kid. Now I have tension. And you can ask the kid, where do you feel the stretch? And it'll hurt. If you're doing it right, you're going to feel a little discomfort for the first time. That's tension right there. Shot is now set. Shot's ahead of the hip here. Now I'm set. Now I have tension. Now I can actually throw. And then there's the free arm. So this gets neglected a lot, especially in gliders. Everyone wants to glide to this position right here. Problem is, when I land here and I want to keep that free arm in my firing chain, I'm gonna go to my left leg. I'm gonna go forward to the toolbar. But if you can land, shoulder is still at 180, the elbow is open like that. Now you have cut down on the time it takes to get into your firing position. This is called the bridging position. So the bridging position is 90-90. So you land here and hit this, then it's a much shorter push. And you fall out of position. It's more difficult to fall out of position that way. Some cues here are everybody's favorite guy, Al, and that's one of my athletes right there. That's me. But as you can see, where they're, especially Al, his shot is right where it needs to be. Maybe a little forward, but a pretty decent shot. But then the time it takes that left arm to get into position and then going to the right into the block is going to be pretty minimal. And then we talk about the firing chain. So the firing chain is basically the order of releasing a shot. So I try to be careful discussing this with the kids because they'll think too much when I do this. It has to be a reaction. It has to be something they feel. It can't be something they think. And it's very simple. You land in this position here, left arm, right knee together, like that. And then you double pivot. So you go in here, feet going like that, and then you just left hand or left shoulder, right arm guides to smash the shot to a finish. That's as simple as I try to keep it for them. I mean, we could break it down into more so components, but that is all they really need to develop. You can see with Al what he's doing with that. He opens it up, and you can see his bridging position where the shot is back, over his butt, past his knee, and then he drives into that. And the lady on the bottom, that's Lynn Anderson, my old coach. Maybe not textbook position, but she's Lynn, and this is pretty unique footage. So to try to develop this, we do a lot of front circle work, and we warm up every day, whether it's our high school kids or our collegiate kids. We warm up with position transfer, and these are basically circuits that we do, and we're teaching very basic movement, but we're promoting the posture, the sequence of how your legs work, how upper body works. We want to also work the ground. And one of the biggest issues younger kids have is they jump, or they leave their feet, or they leave their right foot, if they're right-handed, they leave their right foot before they can actually push on the shot. And these are designed to help them sort of warm up, get their mind going, feel their way through the rest of the practice, or the rest of the session. So simple things like standing. How do you stand properly? You know, keep your hips underneath your shoulders, stand up. Stand up and press. Stand and turn and press. Lean back in the bridging, turn and press. And then do a full stand throw with a turn. And you do it with a medicine ball, you can do it with a PVC pipe or a stick. We do it with an imaginary stick, because we just don't, it just speed things up. So our kids are at a track meet, they're getting ready to throw. You see them doing this crazy little thing over the side. That's what they're doing. And this is, we don't use these drills every single day. These are depending on where they are at the beginning of the season. Right now, we're doing more smash drills with some of the kids that develop their finish. The smash drill, where it's the bridge throw, you basically start hips at 90-90, hips and shoulders at 90-90, your back on the right leg, your left arm is in what's called the draw position. You set your tension, and then you just drop your knee and smash the throw. And we're practicing pushing from the ground through the shot into the sector, and then reverse. So it's a simple switch your feet. So a lot of kids, like last night, we had one kid, he pushed his armpit way too far over the toe board, and then he was out. Long throws, long fouls. We know now that he needs to practice how to, instead of doing this and just waiting for himself to topple, he needs to smash it out and then get his arm back into the circle. And he also needs to develop a feel for where his armpit is over the toe board. Because if his armpit's too far over the toe board, or he feels his chest is not up over the toe board, doesn't matter what he does to save, he's going to fail. So this helps develop that feel for that. The tap left arm draw. Probably by month 3, the kids hate this because they do so many of them. But we're teaching. I really do a stand throw, just a regular stand throw. We really just stop here from a static position and throw, because I want to simulate coming off the glide and going into that reaction throw. So just to statically start that, even though most gliders should be able to do this, I want to add on something where it's a little more useful to them in the broader context of the glide. So a tap is you're in your position, you have your weight on your left, you tap, you draw, and then you throw. So I'm trying to teach a free arm movement, and we're trying to get them used to keeping it back on your right leg as you engage the throw. Then there's the draw, close, draw, teeter throw. And you can break this down to a draw, close, draw throw. I use the teeter because I still want to keep that motion in there. So what that is you start the arm and draw, you go back into your position, you go back up on your right, and as you settle back down on your left, you throw. Again, we're teaching how to engage the firing chain off of motion, but also how to set the angle, close it, and then get back on. And then we have an elementary setup, and this is for kids who are just figuring it out. Maybe they don't know quite how to do it, and so like if you were at state 2 or 3 years ago, Caleb was there, Eric were there, had a bunch of athletes there, and they all warmed up the same way. And this elementary thing looked really weird. We start toe board here, your feet in your stagger, shot, they turn like this, push the hip like forward and step back, and then they settle. And that taught them how to get into the right tension mode when they're beginning to throw. And it looks very, very weird. We don't do it anymore because the looks they were getting kind of bothered them. So we became a little bit more informal about it. And then we do transitional movement. So how do you combine, how do you connect the back of the circle to the front of the circle? And so we want to be able to hit the position and hold that tension in motion. And that's a big deal because what seems to happen is it's easy to talk about having tension here, but if you can't get into this position and get through it into the throw, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to come from the back of the circle and hit your power position with the tension on it and then engage the throw. So we do a bunch of drills. So this is we do a scissor in and out. So essentially, this hit position, set the tension, but instead of teetering, you bring the left leg back, bring it in, left leg back, bring it in, and then throw. And you can do that as many times as you want. We actually had a heptathlete who started her second week of throwing ever in her life, and she's using this competitively right now. And she's arguably our second best shot player on the team, just based on this drill. So basically, it's a modified stand throw. The step back glide wheel, I think everybody's kind of seen it. I think you call it the Tennessee two-step. It's a German, the glide wheel is a German concept. We step back to that, or you can, however you want to do it. But essentially, you're just trying to move into position. Again, the goal is, as you hit in your position, you want to feel this. So no matter how you get in this position, all these transitional movement drills, what matters is that you're hitting a good position with that tension on it, you're feeling it, and it's becoming second nature. So when you actually get into the actual glide, you're going to feel that tension. You should be able to feel that pinch right here. So when that athlete walks out of the circle, two things are going to hurt. His left knee and right here, right in his right rib cage, right where that tension was. Because we're going to crank on that when we're gunning. All right. Oh, go back. The glide, the extend the throw, and these all have different names depending on the system. Like we had a glide wheel, you call it Tennessee two-step. But the extend the throw is basically, people call it A. Some people call it A throw. You start in A position, you press back on that right leg, and then you pull it underneath and you throw. We call it an extend throw because it's a double extension. So you're a double extension, and then Nathan figured out that you can actually cheat, but it still gets to the same goal, which is get that right leg underneath and throw right away. So you start with your leg extension. He's out quite a ways on that. Let me cheat and get it back. So this is him starting it, and we'll play it. He extends fully, he presses on that right leg, and then he just drives right through it. So he's got to pull it underneath him and drive out. There's pros and cons of this drill. One of the pros is that it teaches you when that right leg hits, you're throwing, you feel the tension and you go. The con is that that left leg is stationary. I'm not thrilled with that, but we'll use this in the fall to try to develop that type of feeling. Right leg underneath you, drop and go. And then once we're through with that, then we start talking about glide mechanics. So the glide mechanics are try to create proper positioning as you're coming out of the back, into the middle, into the delivery. And I'll use the 5 main areas that I'll usually refer to as set, load, coil. On seat, then the glide is like the flight phase. And not every technique, and I think this next slide probably says that, yeah. So not every technique uses all 5 of those areas. So at Ohio State, they use a drop and go, or a drop start. So basically, you're standing straight up, you go up on your toes, you drop down. You're basically in set. There's no load, there's no coil. You just drop into your unseat and you go. There's static gliders, there's dynamic gliders, T-style gliders. We use modified for a lot of kids. We do what's called a piston start, where you're actually, Nate does a piston start where you're actually down, you come up, and your back is already kind of flattened over. Come up on your toe, you drop, and then you go that way.
a wolf or a oaf will come up, he'll squeeze the hips and the shoulders in, and then he'll drop and go that way.
So it really depends what's comfortable for the athlete, what they find natural, as long as they fit the mold of the mechanics. So the mechanics, as we'll go through, are going to be pretty stringent, at least in my book. Is that you got to get, for example, that chest has to come down and compress that right knee. Because what I've seen over 18 years and beyond is that the athletes who don't get that chest down, their chests are up, but when the chest is up, you're back inside that right knee when you land. Shot, the center of mass of the shot, it's out of your control at that point. So the athletes keep that shot back, which means shoulder down, press to the right knee, drop as you unseat, the left leg comes out, then you drive off the right leg, pull it under, then tension, you're ready to throw. So how do we do that? So we break it down into drills, and these are just general drills that we do. So we might do, we have Series B and Series C, and we develop the glide for doing these drills. You do it with a med ball, you do it with a stick, you do it with imaginary towel. Colin had me do a lot of towel throws back when I was younger. We just take a towel, knot it up. I'd warm up the track meets. I never threw a shot warming up at the big meets. I threw a towel. And that was Colin's edict for me. Both are 6 movement, so what we're teaching the kids is this is what we expect in this position. So they look pretty simple, but each one of these is loaded with how you're going to get into a right position and how you're going to execute from that position into tension and into the delivery. We'll actually grade the kids on that, so are you proficient at the glide set? The glide set is basically you're getting set, and by a set I mean you go down into this position here, that's a set. Set, load, actually load here, and then a load jump is you jump up straight up in the air and try to come back down and hold your balance. So the glide load jump is pretty critical for a self-test. So the athlete's practicing on his own or her own, they do a load jump and they're wobbling, they know they're not properly balanced on their load. Then we'll glide coil, loading coil, and then down and dart, we'll go through that. Set to extension, so basically when we create a set, we'll go through that here now.
Chris, is that with shot, without shot, or both?
We'll actually do this as a warm-up prior to each reduction shot. So we'll do our front of circle work, we'll do our transitional work, and then we'll say, why don't you go over there and do your Series B, depending on where they're at. So some kids, they might be doing really well with certain elements, so I'll say do Series B exercises 3 through 5, or I might do Series C 1 through 4. Depending, it's prescriptive, so I'll say, well, this is where you need to go. So I need you to focus on that. And then maybe they'll go in the circle and they'll throw it, and they'll come out and they'll do 2 more drills while they're waiting. But the goal is to try to ingrain it. And a lot of times I'll make them go out in the circle and do it because they're just being too talkative.
But they do it with the shot in their neck, or do they do it without a shot?
You don't need a shot, I don't think. Like I said, you use a med ball, you use a stick. On recovery days, like today is a recovery day for the kids, they're doing these with med balls. And they're not trying to, they're just trying to feel positions. But again, the number one thing that I want them to do is hit tension. So and tension isn't exclusive to the glide. I should probably should have led with that. Tension is in every event. You heard it in the discus, certainly in rotational shots, in the javelin. I don't think it's in the hammer, but we'll leave that one alone. But let me just go back to the set. The set is where we create the tension at the back of the circle. And so the set is simply you get your weight on your right leg, shots in position. I take the left arm and I gently cross the elbow across my sternum. I don't turn at the waist. I feel that tension there. You'll feel stretch come up the left side, and you'll feel the pinch on the right side. And now I can fight from there. And I relax at the elbow. That's important too. Relax at the elbow. The pinch right there. And now you can go through it. And that's going to help them set into this position here when they hit it. So Series C, just to go through that, set to extension. So I'll literally start. Series C is really a combination of all the Series B. So it's one thing to break it down, then I want to kind of sew it all together, stitch it all together so they're used to moving with it versus doing it in pieces. They do it in pieces, they get good at pieces, not at the throw. So Series C is we do set to extension. So set to extension means you're dropping and darting. So this is a drop and dart, and Set to extension is I'm just basically doing an 8 glide out of my set. Set to extension, press and pull. I'm doing it to 8 position, and then I'm doing the extend and throw. So I might have a shot in there. Set to position, I land in my power position, right out of, I'm set all the way through so I'm basically doing a static stop in the middle. Set to position and jump, so that's a low jump. It's basically like a low jump but on your right leg. We do very little of those. Set to position, turn and press, where we do that with a ball or with a stick. So basically you do a glide, land, turn, and press. And then a walking glide is basically a very slow glide. So if you've ever heard of a walking throw in the discus or a rotational shot, it's a slow, controlled, rhythmic glide. So the down and dart, which is another important, is sequence and timing as we exit the back. So we're unseating. The big fault a lot of kids have is when they drop, they don't drop straight down, they drop down and back. The butt falls. When the butt falls, the shoulders come up, the shot's landing, the center mass of the shot's landing inside the knee. So it really limits your ability to turn into the shot and drive on the shot. Well, what normally happens is if you land here, you're going to turn, and you'll see a lot of this under the shot, or they'll try to do some kind of crazy, kids will do all kinds of things to try to correct it or save the throw, but the key word is they're saving the throw. I always tell them you're either attacking or you're saving, and that starts at the back. Like anyone will tell you whether it's in a discus or in a shot, the throw starts back here. You win or lose the throw back here in the back of the circle. Like in a discus, if you're way off here and you start to turn around like that, you're off balance, you're saving the throw. Same thing in a shot. If you're off balance and you're wobbling here and you come back like that, you're saving the throw. And then they're going to do anything they can to try to feel they're trying to get out of the problem they're in. So they might turn it into it, they might come around. Something's happening, they're trying to save. And those are symptoms that people then try to fix. And the problem is you're fixing a symptom, not the cause. So don't cure the symptom, cure the cancer. And the cancer is the position down the line. A lot of kids will land, if they're landing off tension, the shot out here, you're going to see them coming out like that. The problem is that they're coming around. Don't treat that. Treat this. The shot's not on balance. The shot's not in tension. You see how the force path, if I'm gliding here, here's my force path. Right through there. That's my force path. If I'm out of that, and I think that's my problem because I'm coming out, it's not because I'm coming around. And I had this problem, so I speak from experience. I wish Colin taught me this stuff. But I threw 17 meters like this. It wasn't until I figured out that I had to hit this position that I could make it over 18 meters plus easily, consistently. That's our goal as a glide. That's our advantage to those rotator guys, is that rain, snow, bitter cold, we beat a rotator. Unless he's, a big, plot in barns or something like that. But in my experience, gliders are better under stress. And John Smith wrote a great article on how gliders, the reason why they were so good for so long is because they're very good under stress. We stay grounded longer. We have better behavior under stress, meaning that our technique is more stable under stress. And so he was saying, this is just a sidebar, in the mid-90s is when the American Renaissance in rotational shot occurred. And that's because we started implementing glide technical model infusions into rotation. We started getting more grounded in the shot. We started having more stability in certain elements of the throw. And that's when you started seeing the Dinas in the old school, Adam Nelson's, Reese Hoffa's, and down the line, they're grounded longer. If you look at Ryan Krauser, he's grounded 80% of his double support phase of delivery. That's huge. And that's why they're able to really generate the delivery distance that they're doing. The flip side of that, though, and I try to capitalize on this when I was with Caleb, is that rotational guys have their force path is longer, they're rotating. So the distance of the shot is going to be farther. Where traditional static glider, the force path is pretty straight. So they have a shorter path to apply the force. That's why the dynamics start. And I'm a static glider I was basically coming out of blocks, and my force path was that long, whereas everyone else's rotating was that long. So the dynamic guys, oof, and even to the modern era restoral, their force path is down and then up. So now their force path went from this static to this. So they're very minimally shorter than the force path of rotation, only because they're moving. That's why you move the ball up and down like you do in the back. It's not because it looks cool, arguably. It's because they're able to move the ball farther and apply force to it longer. Back to load down and guard. Another big issue that athletes have. You see Nate coming down, presses his chest down to his knee, the left leg extends out, and then he drives off that right leg. So you always see the fall leg. That's what you see, but that's very momentary. What you really want to see is that right leg bent with the left leg extended before the right leg drives. What happens is it's the opposite. The left leg is bent while the right leg drives. And that creates the float. So I'll affectionately refer to the float a lot, because this is what happens. You come out like this, and as you pull that right leg underneath you, you land inside your right knee. That's the float. General rule of thumb on this, and maybe not the best example, the left foot should always be below the left knee. If you get that left foot below the left knee, you minimize your float. The other thing is you can create more power or speed across the circle if you get that positions of power to the chest to the knee. I can't say that enough. Chest to the knee, chest to the knee. You get that across, drive off of it, and you get more power off the right quad. But you also, and I think it goes without saying, come off your heel. You want your heel in a dorsiflex coming out of the back. If your heel is off the toe, you're not going to be able to get the stretch reflex off the quad, and you're not going to be able to pull underneath you in the position you need. Your heel is going to be flat. And granted, gliders can go flat because we don't have the same rotational needs as the rotational shot putters. We have to have the heel off the ground. But a totally flat heel is still going to end quality for you. You should have some daylight underneath that heel. Then we have straight leg glides. We call them jabs because it's less syllables. But essentially, it's a straight leg glide. You lock that left leg out, you drop again on that right quad, and you drive across solely off your right leg. So it's a tough drill. For the first 2 weeks the kids are doing it, they struggle. After that, they love it because it's teaching them how to drop and drive off that right leg, how to get that right leg underneath them, and then it's a regular throw after that. And they do enough of these, what's going to happen is they're learning how to glide with an extended left leg, but they're making that right leg stronger off the stretch reflex coming out of the back, so they're able to land and hit that delivery even harder. So it's giving them better timing, more power. And Nate's actually gotten pretty good at it. When you start, your distances on these are going to be pretty low because they're just trying to figure out how to work one leg. But once they get through it, they're about 10% off what they can full throw with. To make this drill successful, though, again, right chest to the right quad, right knee.
You get some pretty big kids. Where do you ask that right leg to come in the circle in the middle?
In terms of size,
yeah,
he's not very big. He's 236 holding the shot.
Okay,
So for a collegiate shot player, that's pretty.
Do you want that right leg coming inside the dot in the middle of the circle?
For the long short, it's going to be middle. If you go inside the middle, more power to you. That's pretty aggressive. If it's outside, if it's on the back half, you're not going to be able to turn because you're presetting the body to have the shot inside the right knee. So from a coaching cue, whether you're using a regular camera or an app like a Coach's Eye or something like that, that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking from the side and thinking, where's that shot as that right knee drops into it? And to be clear, your right foot doesn't necessarily pivot. And the coaching cue that I was always taught was turn your right leg, turn your right leg. Well, you're going in a straight line with your chest down. Not exactly conducive to moving up, doing a full pivot on that right foot. What's going to happen, the cue that's worked for me, and this is only something in the last 5 years, is drop that right knee. That's a discus cue. But you drop the right knee, and you're going to start seeing the hips move better than if you tell the kid to move his right foot. And I'm not saying move your right foot isn't going to work for kids, but like Nathan was saying, you can say 1,000 times, and on 1,001 you're like, all right, this isn't working. Hey, drop your right knee. Immediately they start moving it. And the goal is just to get the hip moving. And if you watch Al and you watch these other guys over time, over the last 30-some years, they are dropping the right knee. That right foot turns only after the hip has turned with it. It's not a clean turn like you see in a rotational shot, I guess is my point. So then you have kids who just, like some of my college kids, they're, like Nate was saying, they're maybe not the best athletes. They're not going to win the Olympics, but you just want them to have the best shot at getting a great PR in the best situations. And one of those is they have they're stagnant in the middle, so they can't get off that right leg in the middle. So trying to engage that firing chain, for whatever reason they're slow, they can't do it, and it's frustrating as a coach, it's more frustrating for them as an athlete. So one of the drills we use for that is we do these double or triple glides, and we're making them bounce, basically. Get off that right leg. Now we did this a year ago when we first started introducing it to the kids. He's not the best example because it's the only video I can find, and it's really hard to explain without a video, I think. Essentially, what works best for us, usually a double glide is explained as just do 2 glides in a row, right? Great. That's not as easy as it sounds. Because you see here, your hips want to keep moving. You're moving linearly, and you're going to kind of joust forward. So what he has been able to do is he does 2 jabs. He does 2 jabs in a row, 3 jabs in a row. Boys, for these younger kids who are struggling with, they get the latency in the middle, so they land, they go with their heel, and then they settle on that left foot, or they just settle, because that's the other thing that's going to happen. You'll settle in like that, and then the turn into throw, you turn sideways. Double glides have been the prescriptive kind of measure that has done the most to repair that kind of issue. So he'll go through and he'll double glide it on a double jab. And you'll see a little hip movement, so it's not pretty, but essentially this has helped him to come quicker out of the middle. Now we'll do 3 of those in a row. The problem we have is that we don't have enough concrete at the throwing area to do indoors, so we'll do it on the track with a medicine ball or something like that. You can do it indoors pretty easily. Med ball is fine, throw a shot. Med ball might be an easier thing to do for a younger kid right out of the gate when they're trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with this. Because the first day they do a jab, an extended throw, a double or triple straight leg glide, they're gonna fall over themselves. They're not going to. You just have to be disciplined and explain them, this is what I want, this is how we're going to do it. They catch on, and literally, they figure this out. I didn't explain half this to Nate. I just said, do a double glide. And then a week later, he figured out how to do it efficiently. But by doing that, and he's a smart kid and a good athlete, but by doing that, he taught me how to do a better double glide, and the things he was learning from it by doing it his way were actually more beneficial. So once we do all this transitional stuff and we want to get into the full throw, we do the blended throw. And so it's not like I'm going to say, just go throw. I want you to throw and be working on something that's going to make you a better thrower. So we might combine non-reverse with reverse with these jabs, with over-under implements. So for example, we might take 60 throws in a session, full throws, but they're different combinations of this at different weights. So you might throw an 18 non-reverse jab, then you might do a 16 full reverse jab, and then you'll finish with a 14 or a 15 full throw non-reverse. And we'll go through that. And the benefits for doing that, I'll go through in a little bit, but we're just trying to develop that one aspect of what we're trying to fix. Like, for example, I have some girls that their left legs are horrible. So we've been fixing on how to get out of the back of that left leg. Last night, they had great left legs. Now, some other things fell apart, but that was what we were working on. Your goal tonight, get down on your right, get that left leg out, get across the circle. And their free arm fell apart on them. But that's how we developed them like that. And they fixed those things and they fix them faster. I found they fix faster when you do the blended combo, the blended complex, when you're mixing things up, because it's forcing their bodies to adapt. And the key thing is you're also doing this with tension in mind. So overriding, you always have to position the ball behind the hip. I just do this in here random. But the key issues that I've seen. Position orientation, so it's always that left foot that seems to be getting in a lot of people's way. Once the kids figure out that left foot, things start to magically happen because it's opening up the hips and it's creating that tension on the shot. Once they figure that out, the C parts for them. And we've had miraculous improvement in like the span of a few weeks. The time it takes them to be able to hit tension off of a glide and maintain it to the throw is anywhere from a month to 6 months. Bethel did it in 2. And if any gauge on that, Bethel is a pretty remarkable glider and a hard-working kid. I mean, she might take 100 throws in a session if you let her. And it took her 2 months to do it. It took Caleb a year. It takes most kids probably longer than 2 months. But they hit that, and that position is the tension right there in a nutshell. Talking about the left foot, that's what we're talking about peaking. The other thing is leading with the cheek. And part of that is a combination with going on the left arm as well. We can fix it with some focal points. I don't know, people have different ideas on focal points. But peaking is, generally what's happening with peaking is you're landing open. So if you're landing open, then you're impatient. And you go into the throw with that chin and then you go underneath it. That's just a matter of, I do more front circle work with those kids, develop more of a feel. Or get that position here, so when you're used to this, then you can hit the firing chain correctly. That's just their firing chain starting in a bad position and then trying to recover from it because they knew they're in a bad position, they could feel it, but they didn't know what else to do. So we correct it with any one of these things, we just throw something in there. Whatever it is tailored to their need, then we hammer them. Big free arm movement. We coined a term a few years ago with the chicken wing throw, where you land the arm tight, and then you try to get it out of your way, like this, like a lawnmower start, and watch your shoulder when you do that. And so when you do that, watch what you do on your weight. Your tension goes like that, and you're on your right heel or your left heel, and then you're either going to throw right, or you're going to cartwheel it over to the left. I threw dropping the left arm in the middle of the body. It hasn't helped that David Storrell has one of these as his faults. But David Storrell is a remarkable athlete, so he'll come across the circle like this, then he'll land like that. But people won't see that, so they'll think it's okay to do this. The problem is, when you hit this, then you try to get that free arm out. You're coming from a bigger distance, so your reaction time as you're moving, your center of mass is moving, you can't outrun that center of mass moving linearly with that left arm. So then I'm on my right, I'm on my left, and I'm throwing forward inside my leg. Pushing extension to the middle. So the other big thing that younger kids have that are the biggest killers of a throw, is they want to push and extend up the throw like this. Rather than drop that knee and get behind the shot, they immediately want to stand. So what we're trying to teach with some of the Series A is sequencing. So you feel the sequence, and then what I can do in the middle of the session, I can say, remember in Series A, we did turn and press? Yeah. Turn and press? Oh, turn and press. Yeah, not stand, turn and press. Turn, stand, and press. And then they'll start connecting the dots on that. We've been hammered on not compressing the quad at the back, so that's just getting that chest, that knee. I mean, I would ask anyone if you want to understand this better, just do it. And do it before and after. You do it without. Come down like this, and then drive off your heel. See where you land. Come down and drive off your heel. See where you land. I mean, that becomes more clear once you start doing it yourself. Not extending the left leg, that's the floating left leg. That's a killer right there because you start teetering into throw onto your left leg and your center of mass is off. And then toe gliding. So toe gliding is there's a girl from St. Thomas, Megan Gerke, the state champion. She threw 46 feet in the K last month off her toe. She's scary. She's gonna be good if she gets off that heel. But that's a big thing, and you see a lot of social media. You see the guys coming up like Luke Warren, he comes up on that toe. He's so dang quick out the unseat, you don't see him rolling back on that heel and getting on. You just think he's coming off that toe. So people say, well, that's what he's doing, so it must be okay. The reality is, if you slow it down, he's rolling off that heel. And like I said, if you're coming off that toe, you're not getting a dorsiflex, you're not getting that right leg underneath you, you're going to get the source reflex that you want off that right quad. And it's not the throw you hope for.
She's just kind of hopping?
She's very athletic, but yeah. She pulled 46 off the toe glide. That's pretty athletic. But she did other things really well. She dropped really well on her quad. The fact that she came off her toe after dropping, so like a flat back, you're about the flat back. The fact that you could drop that flat back and get off her toe is pretty impressive. And then she landed, she dropped her right knee. I mean, there was maybe one frame between hitting the middle and dropping the right knee into the delivery. So she's got some snap. So I would even argue it's not her arm. It's her lower body. Her legs are, I mean, Howard Feuerbach didn't bench that much. I didn't bench that much. I don't think you need to bench a ton to be I call myself a decent collegiate shot.
Sometimes genetically, you have a quick arm.
I was fast twitch. I mean, I was more explosive than I ever thought I really was.
Snyder had a quick arm.
But I wasn't going to beat anyone at bench press contest. Trust me, I wasn't going to beat any. I mean, I probably was beat by most women on the team, but I could power clean 400 pounds and I could squat 6. So I was lower body loaded, so I knew that. That's why I'm coming out of a dead stop, because he knew I could explode out. In hindsight, if I had done some of the things I'm saying, I probably could have had another meter on my throw. The over-under that I've been mentioning, it depends on the ability of the athlete. I found it to be very useful. Some of the key things is just understanding where they are in their cycle, so I'm not going to make them throw light weights when they're doing a heavy day. So if I want to build strength or specific strength, if we're throwing an overweight shot, like an 18-pounder, or in high school, I have throwing 14 or 16. I threw a 16 when I was in high school. I threw a 16 warming up for meets until the state high school league told me that I couldn't. I hated them for it, but in college, I never threw anything bigger than a 16, and I rarely threw a 14. Now I know that it's going to make me better because there's all kinds of science behind it, whether you're building myosin sheathing or developing central nervous system or developing specific strength. What I find value in is teaching the kids they have to modify. So we're creating slight variations in the weight, but by doing that, we're making them learn these things faster. And that's been one of the biggest gains I have. Because literally 2 years ago, we were debating this internally, like, what is the value of this? And then we started really digging into it, and I started understanding it more, and next thing you know, we've got a rainbow of shots of sizes and weights. And generally, you want to keep the same diameter. So if I'm throwing for collegiately, he's throwing a 128 16, a 128 18, a 128 15, a 128 14. So he's not, and it's the same brand, same field, same tactile, everything. So he's really not feeling the difference except for the weight. And then I'm not telling him to throw any harder. Honestly, the hardest weight for our girls to throw right now is an 8-pound or a 3.5. They throw the 10 right now better than they throw 3.5. Because when they get to 3.5, mentally they automatically want the gun. They think, I want to crush this throw, good night, and then they fall apart. They put the 10 in their hand, they're technically clean, it just doesn't go as far. And then 4. So we also know that we're going to throw farther in training with the 10 early, and then we're going to throw farther with the light before we throw farther with the comp. That's generally about 2 weeks apart. So I know I'm peaking at the 10 with the women, and then I start working on the speed with the 3.5 or the 8. When they start really hitting their marks on that, then I know about 2 weeks after that, I'm going to start getting a big throw with the 4K and the men, however you want to decipher that. But I think definitely the learning curve shrinks. So that's been my experience. The learning curve shrinks when I start messing around with their weights. As long as they understand that they're not changing their technique. I'm not trying to make them throw harder. I'm not trying to make them throw differently. I just want you to move that same ball. different weight the same way. So they'll actually go faster if they don't try to move it harder, like with the 15 or the 14 or the 3.5. He'll actually throw faster because that's his body is trying to adapt. So as John said, I'm trying to make you go faster. So how do I do that? Increase the load. That's what we're doing. Then, we've had this talk, you heard with Nathan about training versus competition intensity. We generally train between 75 and 85%, 70 to 85%. And if you always get the question, well, how do I know it's 70%? And it's really a figurative thing. No one can really quantify what 70% effort is because I don't know. But I'm trying to give them a mental idea that I don't want you going 100%. And we bring it up to 85% when we're trying to actually press the envelope, so to speak, in training. We'll do warm-up intensity ladders. I know there was a question earlier about how do you warm up. We do intensity ladders because my biggest pet peeve is kids who PR on warm-ups. No rhythms, no medals, there's no points in beating kids in warm-ups. So we do intensity ladders, like here's your progression. And depending on the meet, depending on how much time you're going to have, depending on what your goals are, you're going to do this throw, but every throw your intensity goes up. Until you're at the second to the top ladder, going on the ladder before your first throw, and then your first throw, now you're going at full tilt, whatever that is. And we might say, like Nathan was saying, rhythmic, you might say you're going at 80%. So it's basically the same. Hit it at 80%. It's not a safety throw. It's not I'm trying to sneak in the finals. I just want you to feel that throw, like he was saying, set the tone, build the confidence. But I might also change the meet, because I might come to the meet knowing that the competition for the kid doesn't really pick up until late in the meet. And I want, my two goals on that is I want to know that we're going to hit them hard early. So I'll maybe come out and he'll throw a big throw out of the gate. That's our goal. I have confidence in it because I'm trained that way that you can do that. Then we always train to the last throw in our training. So we call it our dying breath throw. So you will beat us only after our dying breath, which is we're always going to end on a big throw. You're going to have to worry about us until our sixth throw. That's a big deal. And that has given a mental edge for a lot of the kids because then they know that if they have that confidence, they can end on a big throw. Doesn't matter how many fouls they got, they're good to go for that final throw. Then we do a lot of scenarios. And the scenarios, like what Nate was saying, is just that. We set them up. And at times I'll be even meaner to the kids than he was describing. Like last year, Jess was getting ready for nationals, and she was hitting the big throws, and I'd follow her right away. Well, I didn't follow. They did. What are you going to do about it? You're foul. So I try to trip her up. I try to push them. I try to create a stressor. Then you got to adapt to it. So it's just like a physical adaptation. You have to have a mental adaptation. But we do that in training. Like he was saying, that builds the confidence. So when you have a situation in real life, you can draw on that, and you can create something positive out of that. I don't want to wait to the meet where all of a sudden you're 2 throws down, 2 fouls, and you got to qualify for finals. I want them to know that it's good, that they've got it in their back pocket. The submaximal competition regime, like I said, we try to go 85 to 90%, only because I'll do a test with the kids. And I'll say, all right, throw at 70%, throw at 80%, throw at 90%, throw at 100%. Generally between 90 and 100% is when they start to fall apart technically, because they're trying to muscle, they're breaking technique, they're missing cues. They're trying to go faster than their technique will allow them to put them in different positions, get their attention, whatever. So 90%, I know I've written that there. That's generally where most of my kids are. Some kids are 95%. Some kids can do it. Some kids can go all out. I mean, it means nothing to them. And then what I'll do is I'll push the kids into I know 90%, like last year 90% was Nate's. I'm pushing Nate all out right now. It's like how fast can you go and hold yourself to your technical cues?
Well, you say 90% maximum effort. If 100%, if you can throw 60 feet maximum, are you saying 90% is 54 feet? You're trying to get around 54 feet?
Well, it's not range throwing. It's relative to their mentality. So for Nate, 90% might be 100%, but 90% is what he thinks he needs to do mentally to execute his technique. Like I said, my 90% might be your 100%, but you can go as fast as you want. You go 110%, but if you're breaking technique, things are not going to be optimal. But if you go 90% and hit all your cues, you're in position, and now you're driving on the ball correctly, are you further ahead? So I don't want to push the kid over that limit. I just want to get them up to that red line. We call it the red line. Compete at the red line. You go over that red line, you start things starting to kind of fall apart. They start to go inside themselves, or things start to kind of break at the hips, or something happens. That's, like I said, this is relative. So everyone's different. It's fuck you to know you're an athlete. Simple as that. There you go. That was a sprint. Any questions?
You talk a little bit about like arm positions. I know at the start, I mean, a lot of us out here, but some of the stuff I've been reading too is like when you're carrying, or every athlete's a little different.
Everyone's,
as
yeah.
far as like optimal, I guess, when you're in the tension, where we want, and that right knee drops. I mean, should that be in line, linear line, or
It depends on your technique. It depends on you. I mean, physically, you and I might be different. I always say you have a muscle right here. Press a shot somewhere either below it or right above that muscle or on it. A rotator will hold it further back because a rotational throw is going to be more vertical and more lift. We're more out. We're driving out. So you see like the Germans, like carry it down here, like literally between that muscle and his Adam's apple, press it in there, and that's called a catapult. So he's coming from here. But he's leaving that right leg behind him, so to speak. So that's why there's going to be a little discrepancy in what we're teaching. But Ulf is also 6'7", and he has like a 40-inch vertical. Now, if I had a 6'7", 40-inch vertical kid, I might throw like that. But unfortunately, I mean, Caleb been my biggest at 6'5", about 250, and he couldn't do that. And his vertical's about 33. So he couldn't do that, so he kept it back here. In terms of positioning, it still comes back down to, I mean, if it's an 80-20 rule. 20% of the work should get 80% of the result. So if you're fooling around with this, I don't know if that's your 20-80 benefit. I mean, this is really where you're going to get the most benefit. I mean, if you have a 3-month season and you got to do something fast to get results, it's always going to be creating that tension on the implement, whether it's a shot or a disc, hitting this position here, and then being able to correct the mechanics here. I mean, you don't have to be a fast glider. You have to be a correct glider, and then with a good. I mean, gliders are defined by the guys with a good stand throw. If you're only going to pick up a good glider is about 110 to 115% off the stand throw, where a rotator has a greater delta. Because we'll pick on Tom Walsh. Tom Walsh can't stand throw if his had a gun to his mom's head. He doesn't even stand throw in training. He goes right to the half turns because he's got a 50-meter stand throw. But he's the best rotational shot putter in the world right now. I mean, that'll change probably in a few months, but he can't create that kind of tension off a static movement. It had nothing to do, I think, whether he's holding it or not. It's all to do with what he's doing in the circle. Same thing with the glider. It's like a discus. I want to throw 90% rim versus a 7% rim weight. What feels good, what flies well, what comes naturally off that. Now, if they're dropping the elbow, or they're too high, there's some other things going on there. Like I was saying, don't treat the symptom, treat the cause. So figure out what's going on. Usually it's a positional issue. So if you're hitting a bad position here, like you're out, you're off tension, you're left like that, so your elbow's exposed, versus hitting here. If you're here, all you're doing is you're pivoting around that shot, if you think of it like that. If you're in here, you're moving around that shot like that, and then you're pressing forward on. At my best, and I was only an 18, 19-meter thrower, throws was super slow at delivery. Time stood still as I could literally feel it moving like this as I turned on, and then I drove on and off of that. So the better you get, actually the throw slows down further. Same thing in the discus. The better you get, the more efficient you get. That's why in the discus they call it the sum of the forces are greater than the parts. Because it doesn't feel like a very long throw when you hit it correctly. Same thing on the shot. Like I said, guiding the shot, Colin always just thought you just guide the shot up over the left leg, left of center, where the shot should hit in the sector. So this had nothing to do with it. I was pretty middle of the road in terms of my placement. Some people hold it down here. I don't know very many gliders that hold it back here. I know some rotators that hold it down though. Doesn't seem to affect them. So, again, positions. Okay. Not that you would really want it, but if you got any questions, you can find us at U of M on Sundays between 12 and 3. We start hammering javelin in February at 10:30 in the morning. And then that's my contact information at the College of St. Olaf.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming this year. Again, if you need Chris's contact information, or I'm sure he'll stick around here for a couple minutes when we're heading out and leaving, please get that. For questions maybe later that you don't even have pop up now, looking at notes later and things like that. As always, my stuff is out there online also on MinnesotaThrowsCoach.org or my email. If you'd like that, you can go ahead and see me